Well, it's another day, so that means there are more deranged outbursts from our convicted felon president that we need to deal with. So I want to talk about one that this raging lunatic just posted, less than an hour ago. He is attacking the federal judge who ruled against him in this immigration deportation case where Trump has invoked the Alien Enemies Act to be able to arrest and deport without any due process people who he says are in this country illegally and subject to deportation. Now, I say he says that because we don't know for a fact that these people were even in the country illegally because there was no hearing, no due process. Anyway, let me deal with what this lunatic posted. He posted this at 9:05 a.m. on Tuesday, March 18th, just over an hour ago as I'm recording this, and he wrote the following. This radical left lunatic of a judge, well, that's pretty ironic coming from the world's biggest raving lunatic. Anyway, a troublemaker and agitator who was sadly appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, was not elected president. He didn't win the popular vote by a lot. He didn't win all 7 swing states. He didn't win 2,750 to 525 counties. He didn't win anything. I won for many reasons and an overwhelming mandate. But fighting illegal immigration may have been the #1 reason for this historic victory. I'm just doing what the voters wanted me to do. This judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached. We don't want vicious, violent, and demented criminals, many of them deranged murderers, in our country. Make America great again. Okay, let's unpack this freaking lunacy. Let's begin with this notion that he won by a lot. He says he won the popular vote by a lot. All right, he didn't win the popular vote by a lot. It was, in fact, one of the smallest popular vote victories in American history. He didn't even win a majority of the votes cast, so that's hardly a sweeping victory. But if he wants to convince himself that he has some massive mandate, go right ahead. History is littered with losers who were elected and misread their mandate and lost support of the people. Anyway, you go right ahead, you orange buffoon. Okay, so what he's mad about here is the fact that this judge has ruled against him. And his point is that since he is president, and you hear this all over Fox News and the right-wing propaganda media, he's making basically 2 points. One, since he won, he gets to do whatever he wants. And he doesn't make this second point explicitly in this post, but this is really the argument that's being pushed on Fox News every single day. And that is one judge, in fact, I heard Pam Bondi making this point yesterday. One judge, one lowly district court judge has no authority to tell the president what he can and can't do. That's their thing. He won, so he should get to do whatever he wants to do. And one judge sitting in a district court somewhere has no right to tell him what he can and can't do. So let's begin with the he won part. What did he win? He won an election for president, which means whether his victory was narrow or massive, it doesn't give him any greater power or lesser power depending upon the size of his victory. If you win, you get the full powers of the president. And what that means is you have the authority that the Constitution gives to the president and that laws passed by Congress give to the president. But that's it. That's all the authority you get. And you take an oath to follow the Constitution. And as president, your authority is prescribed and limited by the Constitution. You don't get to do whatever the hell you want. And it doesn't matter if what you say you're doing is popular or not popular. And whether you think that the people who voted for you to do that thing or not doesn't matter. You can run for election and promise to do something that's completely illegal. And if you get elected, that doesn't mean you have a right to do that illegal thing. You can't. You can only do, or you're only supposed to do, I mean, this man is violating the law and the Constitution daily because Congress won't do anything about it. But anyways, the point is, when you win an election, you get to exercise the power of the presidency, but that's it. And the power of the presidency is checked by other powers given to other branches of government. And one of those checks in our constitutional system is where the courts get to review actions by the president and his administration if a lawsuit is brought to challenge actions of the administration. It's the courts who, under our Constitution, get to decide whether or not that action is legal. And so for Trump and these hacks on Fox News to say that the courts, one district court judge, doesn't get to rule on the legality or the constitutionality of a presidential action is to completely reject our entire system of government and to completely reject Supreme Court jurisprudence going all the way back to 1803 with Marbury versus Madison, where Chief Justice Marshall said that it is the province and the duty of the court to say what the law is. That is like our most foundational Supreme Court case. Probably the most important case in all of American history, which makes very clear that yes, the courts get to decide what the law is and whether or not the president and his administration are following the law or violating the law. And if they are violating the law, if they are going to do their jobs and abide by the Constitution and they are told by a judge that this is illegal, they must stop doing it. And this idea, because they try to discredit a district court judge by saying, oh, one lowly district court judge in some district somewhere doesn't get to tell the president of the United States what he can or can't do. Yes, jack-offs, that's exactly what a district court judge is empowered to do. He gets to rule on cases that are brought before him, and if those cases challenge the legality or constitutionality of a presidential action, then yes, that district court judge gets to tell the president or his administration what he can or cannot do, whether what he did or is doing is legal or constitutional or not. And this idea that it's a lowly district court judge, see, that's the way our system works. When you bring a lawsuit, for example, challenging deportations, as Trump is angry about here, you file it initially in the district court. The district courts are our trial courts. That's where all lawsuits are initially filed, in the district court. And it is heard by one judge. That's how the district courts work. It's one judge presiding over a district court. If you lose at the district court level, the trial level, you can appeal. That goes up to the circuit courts. Those are our appeals courts. And at the circuit court level, you get a panel of judges. You might get a 3-judge panel. You might get the full panel. You might initially get a 3-judge panel, and if you lose there, you can ask for reconsideration and bank by the entire panel. And if you lose there, you can ask the Supreme Court to hear it. Now, the Supreme Court, generally speaking, does not have to hear any case, and they don't hear most cases. And if they don't, then the circuit court opinion stands. That's the final ruling. So that's how it works. But even if you get all the way up to the Supreme Court, your case must initially begin at the district court level before one lowly district court judge. Now, if Trump doesn't like this radical left lunatic judge appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, then he can appeal to the circuit court. And then he's not being told what he can or can't do by one lowly district court judge. He will have a panel of judges looking at what that lowly district court judge did to see if that judge erred in any way. Anyway, this is our system. So yes, a judge does get to tell the president what he can and can't do with respect to the one case and set of facts brought before him. Now, as to the substance of this case, the deportations, because what Trump is doing is he has invoked the Alien Enemies Act to arrest and deport people who he says are in the country illegally without any due process. Now, it's called the Alien Enemies Act because it's supposed to be dealing with enemies who are here illegally during a time of war, right? And a president can only invoke this act if we are in a declared war, which means a war declared by Congress. Well, we are in no such war. The only other way that a president can invoke this act is if, what's the language here? If a foreign government undertakes an invasion or a predatory incursion against U.S. territory. Well, that's not the case here either. So Donald Trump's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act to arrest and deport people without due process is illegal. Flatly illegal. And the judge has so far ruled correctly. And the people challenging the president's actions have gone about this exactly the way it's supposed to work in our system. You don't like what the president's doing, you think it's illegal, then you bring it to one of those lowly district court judges. They hold a hearing and they issue a ruling based on the Constitution and law. And the Constitution and law in this case clearly dictate that what the president is doing is illegal. Now, as for his calls for the impeachment of this judge, what exactly is the high crime or misdemeanor that would warrant this judge's impeachment and removal from office? Well, obviously, there is none. Trump thinks this man should be impeached and removed for no other reason than he ruled against Trump. This is how dictators approach government. You know, he thinks that he should be able to do whatever he wants because he won an election. He shouldn't be constrained by the courts. And if a judge rules against him in any way, then they should be impeached and removed from office. This is, dictator 101 shit. But none of this should be surprising to anyone. We knew who Donald Trump was. We knew what he was going to do. The man promised to be a dictator. And so now we shouldn't be surprised that he's acting like a dictator. So good job, America. Way to go.